The old man was clearly aware of Yang Ye's identity. The D clan wasn't afraid of Yang Yi, but it didn't want to offend this fellow at a time like this, because even the D clan didn't dare to ignore Yang Ye's strength. The white-haired old man's face fell when he heard Yang Yi. Yang Yi? What are you trying to say? You? Yang Yi waved his hand. I don't want to waste my breath on you. Tell the experts of the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect to show themselves. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly. They are guests of my D clan now. Yang Yi, you... Suddenly, Yang Yi vanished on the spot. A sword howl resounded. Bang! The old man was immediately struck by it. His body exploded apart, and his soul fled his body at the critical moment and appeared over 1 kilometer away. The old man, who was just a soul now, glared at Yang Yi. Yang Yi, how dare you? Hiss! A ray of sword energy pierced through the old man's forehead. The old man's soul exploded apart. He was dead. Yang Yi sheathed his sword and Arya appeared by his side. She glared at him, and he smiled embarrassedly. Sorry? I used a little too much strength. Arya absorbed the spirit and soul, but that attack of his had obliterated the old man completely, so she had nothing to absorb. Arya felt quite helpless. Big brother Yang, you know I've been constantly hungry lately. Do you think it's easy for me to ever have a filling meal? She actually started to tear up. Stop! Yang Yi hurriedly admitted his mistakes. It was my fault. I guarantee I'll use lesser strength next time, alright? She grunted and entered the primordial pagoda. Yang Yi sighed softly. What a little lord! He started walking into the distance, and it didn't take long for him to see a huge and grand city. It was extremely tall and simply stretched boundlessly toward both sides. At the top of the city, Yang Yi saw 2 gilded words. Emperor City. Yang Yi walked over to the city's entrance. It was shut tight. Yang Yi stomped his right foot down, causing the entire city to quake. Meanwhile, a young man appeared before him. The young man wore a gorgeous embroidered robe, had hair that hung down to his shoulders, and held a pitch-black spear. The young man sized up Yang Yi. It may be our first meeting, but I've heard of you. Right, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Di Qing, the D clan's successor. Yang Yi glanced at the young man. Aling's fiancé? Di Qing shook his head. That's over now. A part of it was thanks to you. Yang Yi said, all right, let's not waste each other's time. I'm sure you know why I'm here. So, shall we fight, or will you hand them over? Di Qing smiled. They have sided with my D clan, so they are part of my clan now. Thus, we naturally have to fight. Yang Yi nodded. That makes things easier. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yi appeared before Di Qing. Right at the instant Yang Yi appeared before Di Qing, the latter's spear shot forward rapidly like surging thunder. Meanwhile, Executor left its sheath. Hiss! The spear was instantly sliced into 2. Di Qing's pupils constricted as he floated over 300 m back. He was very fast, so he'd been able to avoid Yang Ye's lethal strike. However, as soon as he descended to the ground, Yang Yi appeared before him again. Yang Ye's sword descended. Di Qing's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he twisted his right hand and slammed a punch forward. It was much faster than Yang Ye's sword. Bang! An explosion resounded and Yang Yi was blasted around 300 m away. Yang Yi looked down at his stomach and noticed that it had sunken in. Moreover, his internal organs ached a little. Yang Yi looked up at Di Qing. So you don't use the spear, you use the fist. Di Qing grinned. Can't I? Yang Yi smiled. Of course you can. As soon as Yang Yi finished speaking, he suddenly vanished on the spot, and Di Qing took a step back in response. A moment later, his figure soared up into the air, and then he twisted it sideways before slamming a punch forward. It wasn't just fast, it was an extremely powerful punch too. However, it was slamming down upon Yang Ye's sword, and Yang Yi was holding Executor. His fist descended. Hiss! A fist flew up into the air. However, Yang Yi was pushed over 30 m back as well. Di Qing glanced at Yang Ye's sword and ridiculed. A super divine treasure. It truly does cut through everything. But I'm really curious. If you don't have that sword, then wouldn't you be nothing? Obviously, he wasn't convinced of his defeat. Of course he wasn't. Yang Yi wouldn't have been able to slice off his hand without executor. Yang Yi shook his head and smiled. Trying to provoke me to give up my sword? To be honest, I don't have to prove anything to you. If you think that I'm bullying you by using a super divine treasure, then you can use one too. Go on. Di Qing's face was quite unsightly. A super divine treasure? The Di clan didn't even have one. So how could he? Di Qing smiled coldly. Yang Yi, you've truly allowed me to gain a new understanding of the word shameless. Yang Yi replied, you don't have a super divine treasure, so I can't use one? Are you being shameless, or am I? Since you don't have one, allow me to give you a different way of fighting fairly. I won't use my super divine treasure, but you must suppress your cultivation to the true Dao realm, because I'm only at the true Dao realm right now. Let's fight one-on-one without any weapons and in the same realm of cultivation. That's fair, isn't it? The true Dao realm. Di Qing's face grew even more unsightly. He was a four-world realm expert right now, while Yang Yi was really only at the true Dao realm. However, even an idiot knew that Yang Yi couldn't be judged based on his cultivation. If he suppressed his cultivation to the true Dao realm, it was obvious that he would have no chance at victory. Di Qing stared at Yang Yi. You're so shameless. Yang Yi shook his head and put executor away. After that, he appeared before Di Qing, and the latter's eyes narrowed as he slammed a punch forward. Meanwhile, sword precursor slashed down in Yang Ye's grasp. 5 swings with the sword domain. As soon as this attack descended, Di Qing's expression changed. Bang! Di Qing was blasted away, and at the instant that happened, a flying sword suddenly shot out from the sword gourd. It instantly arrived before Di Qing. Di Qing's expression changed drastically. While his body had lost balance, he'd still forcefully swung a punch at this critical moment. But a punch executed in a hurry like this was much weaker than it had previously been. Hiss! The flying sword pierced through his fist, and Di Qing himself was blasted away and slammed against the city walls. Di Qing wasn't even able to recover from his shock when 2 flying swords stabbed into his shoulders and nailed him on the wall. A crushing defeat. Yang Yi walked over to Di Qing and looked up at him. Di Qing stared at Yang Yi without any fear in his eyes. Yang Yi smiled. You're only so fearless because you have people to protect you. It's the 5 world realm experts of the Di clan, right? Di Qing laughed coldly. Yang Yi, do you think that you can even kill 5 world realm experts? Or perhaps you think the desolate race will take your side? Yes, you are friends with Huang Ying. But who do you think he will choose when it's between you and my Di clan? Even if Huang Ying chooses you, the elders of the desolate race won't agree to it. You... Yang Yi suddenly drew his sword and swung it. As soon as this attack descended, Di Qing's voice stopped abruptly. He wasn't dead, because an old man had appeared before him, and Yang Ye's attack had been forcefully stopped by a blue barrier of light. A 5 world realm expert. A true 5 world realm expert. However, the old man was at the 4 world realm right now. It was because the Emperor world wasn't a mid-level world. If Eternal Kingdom was excluded, then the Desolate world was the only mid-level world throughout this universe, and so it could barely support the presence of 5 world realm experts. But the Emperor world wasn't a mid-level world. The old man waved his right hand. The barrier of light exploded apart and Yang Yi appeared around 100 m away. The old man glanced at Yang Yi and said, Yang Yi, there isn't much enmity between my Di clan and you, yet you killed one of our 4 world realm experts on arrival. Aren't you going a little too far? Yang Yi smiled. I don't want to waste my breath. All I want to know is whether your Di clan is going to hand over those fellows from the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly. Yang Yi, do you think my Di clan fears you? You? The old man's voice stopped abruptly because Yang Yi was in front of him. A sword descended. It was Executor. 5 swings with the sword domain. As soon as the 5th swing descended, the space here cracked open. Such a world wasn't able to endure this attack of Yang Ye's. While the old man was at the 5 world realm, he'd suppressed his cultivation to the four-world realm. So, he didn't dare to go head-on against Yang Ye's attack. After all, Yang Yi was using the number 1 sword of Eternal Kingdom. The old man raised his hands slightly. In an instant, a wave of powerful aura swept out from within him, and at the instant his palms descended, the space here started to ripple. Boom! A wave of powerful energy surged out like an erupting volcano. Bang! The powerful energy blasted Yang Yi backward repeatedly. He was pushed over 300 m back. The old man didn't attack again and said, Yang Yi, the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect are subordinate sects of my D-clan now. If you attack them, you're attacking my D-clan. Let me just say this right here and now. My D-clan is protecting them no matter what. Yang Yi suddenly spoke ferociously. If that's the case, then I'll annihilate your D-clan today. Boom! As soon as he said that, a wave of powerful intent surged up into the air from within Yang Yi. The madness intent. Meanwhile, Executor soundlessly entered the sword gourd, and it was replaced by the sword precursor and sword supreme. Dual swords. Executor entered the sword gourd, and Yang Yi held his dual swords as he charged at the old man. The eyes of the five-world realm expert before Yang Yi gradually turned icy cold. Actually, the D-clan didn't want to offend Yang Yi at a time like this. After all, Yang Yi was no ordinary person and he was a madman. But it didn't represent that they feared him. Yang Yi was provoking him and refusing to give them any face. So if the D-clan still chose to endure it, they would undoubtedly be laughed at by the entire world. Large clans cared about their honor the most. Yang Yi had arrived before the old man, and a sword swept at the old man's throat. It was like a bolt of lightning. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly as he moved 30 m back to avoid Yang Yi's attack. A moment later, he pressed his palm down at Yang Yi from afar. Bang! The space above Yang Yi slammed down like a mountain and crashed down upon Yang Yi. Meanwhile, Yang Yi swung his swords forward. Hiss! Hiss! That expanse of space was instantly sliced open. Suddenly, the old man vanished on the spot, and then a huge fist appeared out of thin air and slammed at Yang Yi's head. It hadn't even arrived before him when a wave of powerful energy had blasted cracks open in the space behind Yang Yi. While the old man was at the four-world realm now, his attack possessed the strength capable of destroying 5 worlds. It was extremely strong. Yang Yi didn't dodge, nor could he. The force of the punch covered the surroundings, so not to mention him, even the space around him was enveloped within it. Yang Yi suddenly spun on the spot and slashed his swords. The sword domain. 5 swings. Unlike before, it was executed with 2 swords, so it was 2 swords each executing 5 swings with the sword domain. His swords descended. Bang! The old man's energy was instantly blasted into bits. At the same time, he was pushed over 1 kilometer away, and the old man hadn't even stopped himself when a flying sword flashed. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly. He stretched out his right hand and twisted it, causing a vortex to form in space and stop the sword. In just an instant, the sword pierced through the vortex and went straight in. The old man frowned and punched at it. The energy of 5 worlds. Boom! The flying sword was punched away, but the old man was pushed over 300 m back again. The old man wasn't even able to counterattack when Yang Yi appeared before him. Both swords descended in unison. The madness sword technique. Just like that, the old man was pushed back repeatedly. At the moment the old man started to be pushed back, he knew the situation was bad. Sure enough, Yang Yi's swords descended like a storm, and every one of them was lethal. This forced him to exhaust all his strength dealing with them and stopping him from being able to counterattack. Even if he tried to, he noticed that Yang Yi's strength wasn't any weaker to him. Suppression. Yang Yi was fully suppressing the old man. However, it was just the beginning. As the battle continued, the blood vessels beneath Yang Yi's skin started to tremble, and his madness intent grew more and more stronger. Madness. It didn't take long for Yang Yi to go completely mad. At this moment, the old man had been pushed extremely far back. As for the space here, it was covered in pitch-black cracks. All of them had been sliced open by Yang Yi's swords. Even the old man was covered in injuries. It was terrible. At this moment, the old man was beyond shocked because Yang Yi was growing stronger as the battle went on. He was much stronger than he'd previously been. If he was said to be able to deal with Yang Yi earlier, then now he could only passively defend himself. He didn't even have the slightest chance to counterattack. Just like that, the old man was pushed back repeatedly, and it didn't take long for him to be unable to persist much longer. It was because his arms and body were covered in injuries, and some even pierced through his entire body. It could be said that his body was almost in pieces. If this continued, death would only be a matter of time. Attack! Suddenly, the old man's voice resounded. As soon as he gave the order, 5 powerful auras shot out from the city, and then they slammed down upon Yang Yi. Boom! Yang Yi was blasted over 3 kilometers away. Meanwhile, 5 extraordinary experts appeared before the old man. All of them were Peak 4 World Realm experts. Moreover, their auras weren't inferior to the old man who'd suppressed his own strength to the 4 World Realm. Every extraordinary clan had its own territory, and the D clan was no exception. They were one of the D clan's trump cards. The old man stared at Yang Yi, who was in an insane state right now. Horror. He felt quite horrified by Yang Yi. He was a 5 World Realm expert. While he'd suppressed his cultivation, he was still a 5 World Realm expert at his core. However, Yang Yi had almost killed him just now. Yang Yi was actually that strong. At this moment, he'd gained a clear realization that 4 World Realm experts were no threat to Yang Yi. Not to mention 4 World Realm experts, even 5 World Realm experts with their cultivation suppressed were no match for him. It could be said that he was practically invincible below the 5 World Realm. Suddenly, Yang Yi transformed into a ray of light and vanished on the spot. The old man's expression changed drastically. Yang Yi you? The old man hadn't even finished speaking when an expert in the distance was sliced into bits by Yang Ye's dual swords. Once he instantly killed that expert, Yang Yi charged at another. The sword gored by his waist trembled, and then a ray of light flashed out of it. The flying sword was even faster than Yang Yi and struck a nearby 4 World Realm expert. That 4 World Realm expert's expression had changed drastically when he saw the sword shoot at him. He stomped his right foot down and moved 300 m back. However, Yang Yi was even faster than him. As soon as he stopped, Yang Yi appeared before him. 2 swords descended, 200 swings in a breath of time. All of them struck the same spot. While that expert had fought back in the face of death, it was pointless. He was instantly sliced into pieces. Meanwhile, Arya appeared beside Yang Yi. She glanced at him and silently moved to the side before quietly devouring the expert's soul and energy. Yang Yi wasn't in a normal state right now, so she couldn't afford to offend him. Yang Yi ignored Arya, who was sneaking a meal over there. He gazed to the side once he killed that expert and vanished on the spot. 2 rays of sword energy flashed in parallel to each other. That expert's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't flee because he knew that it was impossible. He risked his life instead. That 4 World Realm expert clenched his fists slowly, and then he put them together and slammed them forward. Bang! A wave of flames rippled out from his fists. In an instant, an ocean of flames appeared in the space before him. However, this ocean of flames was sliced open by 2 rays of sword energy, and then they arrived above his head. A vicious glow flashed through his eyes, and then his stomach started to expand. An instant later, he exploded apart. Bang! A wave of powerful energy exploded forth, and the space in a huge area shook and cracked open. As for Yang Yi, who bore the brunt of it, he was blasted over 10 kilometers away. Self-detonation. The self-detonation of a Peak 4 World Realm expert. How terrifying was that? Even Yang Yi was blasted by it to the point his body cracked open. Fortunately, he had primordial violet energy, or he would have been heavily injured even if he could avoid death. Because he'd been too close to that expert. As for Arya, she was completely fine. She was merely pushed a few steps back before she stabilized herself and continued eating. The 5 World Realm experts of the D clan had extremely unsightly expressions on their faces. 3 Peak 4 World Realm experts had died just like that, Their hearts were bleeding. However, Yang Yi didn't stop. Once his injuries had healed slightly, he charged at the old man. The old man's face was extremely ferocious. He glanced at Arya, who was still devouring the souls and energy, and he said, "You go capture that young girl. I'll keep him busy." As soon as he said that, his figure transformed into a beam of light that charged at Yang Yi. Meanwhile, the other four-world realm expert charged at Arya. Obviously, they planned to capture Arya to threaten Yang Yi. Arya suddenly looked up at the four-world realm expert who charged at her. "What are you trying to do?" That expert spoke ferociously. "What do you think?" As soon as he finished speaking, bang! He was blasted away and slammed against the city walls, causing the thick and strong city walls to collapse. The four-world realm expert crawled up from the rubble and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. After that, he looked down at his stomach, and it had a hole in it, a hole that pierced straight through. He was beyond shocked, and he looked up at the young girl before him. Who are you?" Arya patted her palms together and walked over to him. "I'm Arya, Snowy's friend. Understand? It's fine if you don't understand. And I'm going to eat you now." Arya slapped her palm against the man's head. Bang! That expert was slammed into a pile of mush. Arya squatted down and started devouring. Around 15 minutes later, she patted her stomach and shook her head. "I'm still a little hungry." She glanced at the old man to the right. Actually, she wanted to devour the old man, but she didn't dare to go over there. Yang Yi wasn't in a normal state right now, and she was worried that he would attack her too. Arya hesitated for a moment. Suddenly, she looked toward the city and cracked a smile. So many people! She walked over to the city's entrance. It was closed. Arya kicked the gates. Bang! Not just the gate, but the entire section of the walls collapsed. Just like that, Arya swaggered off into Emperor City. Arya had entered the city. The moment he saw Arya enter the city, the old man in battle with Yang Yi was absolutely shocked. He hadn't expected her strength to actually be this terrifying. She'd punched a four-world realm expert death with just one punch. Was she a greater monster than Yang Yi? However, he didn't have the time to pay any attention to Arya, because Yang Ye's barrage of attacks had almost shattered his body. The old man wanted to flee on many occasions, but Yang Yi just refused to let him escape. Hiss! 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 Yang Ye's sword sliced into his bone and made him bleed with every swing. Finally, his body was gone. A soul. At the instant his body collapsed, he decisively abandoned his body and vanished on the spot. He'd fled. He fled into the city. Outside the city, Yang Yi withdrew a world crystal and swallowed it, and then he started walking toward the city's entrance. Once Arya entered the city, she glanced at the surroundings, and it didn't take long for Snowy to appear on her shoulder. Arya asked, "Snowy, where are the treasures?" "Treasures." Snowy glanced at the surroundings, and it didn't take long for her to point in a certain direction. Arya nodded and ran swiftly in that direction. Perhaps she was doing it on purpose, but as she ran, the entire city was actually trembling violently, and the ground collapsed beneath her feet. The entire city was experiencing an earthquake. Arya ran faster and faster, and only ruins laid in her wake. Suddenly, countless pillars of light shot at her from all directions. They were dense like a storm and enveloped the space all around her. She didn't stop at all, but Snowy hurriedly hid herself. It didn't take long for those pillars of light to descend. All of them struck Arya. However, Arya was still running. Any pillar of light that struck her would explode apart like fireworks. But not only were they incapable of slowing her down, she was still growing faster. Finally, all the pillars of light had vanished. But it didn't take long for a powerful aura to shoot up into the air from afar. After that, a colossus appeared in the sky. A dragon. It was a huge pitch-black dragon that blotted out the sky. Waves of aura were ceaselessly seeping out of it, and the aura caused the space in the surroundings to ripple. There was a middle-aged man on its head. He was the patriarch of the D clan, Di Lian, a true five-world realm expert. Lien glanced at Arya and frowned slightly. Who are you? Even he couldn't see through Arya. Arya was about to speak when Yang Yi suddenly appeared by her side. She blinked, and then she soundlessly moved slightly away from him. She couldn't afford to offend Yang Yi right now. Lien's gaze descended onto Yang Yi. The young are really amazing. Yang Yi, you. Suddenly, Yang Yi shot up into the air. An array of sword energy slashed at Lien. Lien frowned when he saw Yang Yi just attack. Meanwhile, Yang Ye's sword had arrived. Lien tapped his right foot against the dragon's head, and then he slammed a punch at Yang Yi. At the instant his fist shot forward, a wave of violet energy rippled out from the top of his fist. It blasted apart Yang Ye's sword energy, and then Yang Yi was blasted back to where he'd been a moment ago. However, Yang Yi immediately charged up into the air again. Lien frowned while the desire to kill surged in his eyes. As far as he was concerned, Yang Yi was really going too far. Lien suddenly vanished from the dragon's head and charged at Yang Yi. A powerful aura swept out from him like the tide, and it caused the entire city to tremble. Meanwhile, Yang Yi was growing increasingly insane. However, as soon as they collided, Yang Yi was at a disadvantage. When she saw Yang Yi and Lien getting locked in battle, Arya's gaze descended upon the black dragon. At this moment, the dragon was looking at her too. They were in the same realm of cultivation. Both of them were at the peak of the four-world realm. Arya licked her lips, and then she shot into the air and slammed herself against the dragon. The dragon slapped its claw at Arya. It seemed like it could slap the ground apart. Arya revealed no fear and just slammed against it. Bang! The dragon's body shook violently, and then it was blasted over 300 m away. At the same time, its claws cracked open and blood sprayed. Arya didn't stop. Her figure shot up into the air, and then she slammed her little head against the dragon's body. Boom! She actually blasted through its body. The powerful force of the collision even blasted the dragon over 10 kilometers away, and there was a huge and bloody hole in its stomach. Just these two attacks of hers had heavily injured the black dragon. The experts of the D clan in the surroundings were stunned by this. The black dragon was the guardian beast of the D clan, and it was from the primal era too. Even though it was a little more inferior than the primal true dragon, it was still an overlord in the world of demon beasts. Yet now, such an overlord was being beaten up by that young girl. It was being beaten up. Arya didn't stop. She charged at the black dragon again. This time, there was fear in the dragon's eyes. It was slightly fearful as soon as they entered into battle. It was innate fear. While it was slightly fearful, it didn't flee, nor could it. Moreover, as a part of the dragon clan, it had its own dignity. Actually, if it knew about the primal true dragon, it would just disregard its dignity. Dignity was something they had to disregard before existences like Snowy and Arya because their lives were more important. A vicious glow arose in the black dragon's eyes. Suddenly, its body spun, and its huge tail swept at Arya. Powerful force swept apart the space throughout the sky. It was obvious how terrifying the energy it contained was. Arya suddenly stopped, gazed at the tail, and then she leaped up and slammed herself at it. A head-on collision. Arya didn't choose to avoid the dragon's attack, and had chosen a head-on collision instead. Both of them slammed against each other. Boom! Arya blasted through the dragon's tail. At the same time, the dragon was blasted away and howled with pain. A huge bloody hole had appeared in the dragon's tail. It was the size of Arya's body. This time, Arya didn't stop attacking. She immediately flashed over to the dragon's back, and then she slammed a punch at it. The dragon was horrified, and a wave of powerful dragon pressure rippled out of it. However, Arya just ignored the pressure. After all, as far as she was concerned, dragon pressure was utterly useless. Not to mention the black dragon, even the dragon pressure from the primal true dragon, a pure-blooded dragon, was a joke to Arya. Such dragon pressure couldn't even compare to a single glance from a Nanjing. Just like Snowy, Arya felt both respect and a trace of fear for a Nanjing. Arya's fist slammed against the dragon in the end. Bang! The dragon was blasted down from the sky and crashed into the city. Boom! The entire city shook violently, and then a cloud of dust surged up into the air. Meanwhile, Arya dived down and stomped her foot on the dragon's head. Bang! The dragon's head was stomped into bits, just like an exploding ball. After that, Arya suddenly started eating. This time, she ate it raw and didn't just devour its energy and soul. Arya wasn't very fond of human flesh, and human flesh was too little. Felt like she wasn't even eating anything. However, the flesh of demon beasts was different. Not only was it tasty, it contained energy. The essence of a demon beast was within its flesh, and the essence of a person was within their spirit and energy. Just like that, countless experts of the D-clan watched as Arya ate the dragon. Meanwhile, Snowy appeared nearby. Arya took a few more bites and gazed at Snowy. "Want some?" Snowy blinked. Arya thought for a moment, and then clawed at the dragon's stomach. A fist-sized white pearl appeared in her claw. The Dragon Ball. It was the best part of the black dragon. Arya flicked it over to Snowy. "Take that. It's very tasty." Snowy glanced at the Dragon Ball, which was still covered in blood, and shook her head. It was too bloody, and she preferred eating clean things. Arya glanced at Snowy. "It's a treasure, and it's really tasty." Snowy wiped the Dragon Ball, and then a strand of spirit energy cleaned it completely. Snowy put the Dragon Ball away and pointed at Yang Yi. Arya glanced at Yang Yi. At this moment, Yang Yi was still fighting the D-clan's patriarch, Di Lian. Yang Yi was at a disadvantage. Arya withdrew her gaze. "Don't worry about Big Brother Yang. He grows stronger as he fights, so he'll definitely defeat that guy." Actually, she didn't dare to interfere. Yang Yi would attack anyone in sight while he was in this state. Especially now that Yang Yi had become much stronger and could pierce her defenses. She cherished her life, so she was staying away from him. That was what Arya thought. Suddenly, Arya stood up and grabbed the black dragon's tail. "It's tasteless. Let's take it back to the pagoda and enjoy it slowly." Just like that, she dragged it into the primordial pagoda. On the ascension platform, all the demons had surrounded the platform. All of them were drooling at the sight of the huge black dragon. They'd been with Yang Yi for so long that they'd almost forgotten they were demon beasts. Arya walked around the dragon and said, "Let's cook it and enjoy it together. Oxy, you start the fire. Dragon, you cut it into smaller pieces. Tiger, you go ask big sister Xianxia and the others for things like salt. Qilin, you go get a pot." The martial Qilin was stunned speechless. Pot? Where would it get such a huge pot? When she saw the look on the martial Qilin's face, Arya realized what was wrong. She thought for a moment and said, "Get some metal and make one yourself. Make one itself." The martial Qilin nodded because that could be done, turned around and left. A short while later, a huge pot that was larger than a house appeared on the ascension platform. A huge iron pot to stew the black dragon. Just like that, the black dragon was cut apart under Arya's command and placed in the pot. They started cooking it. Meanwhile, Yang Yi was still fighting Di Lian outside the pagoda. At this moment they were equally matched. He grew stronger as the battle progressed. At this point in the battle, Di Lian actually had the intent to retreat. There was no irreconcilable enmity between Yang Yi and the D-clan. Even if the D-clan could kill Yang Yi, it would have to pay a terrible price to succeed. The D-clan had existed for thousands of years, and it naturally had many more trump cards. However, Di Lian didn't want to use them. Those trump cards were being kept for the battle with the Desolate Race and Eternal Kingdom. That battle was critical to the D-clan. Moreover, the D-clan had trump cards, but did Yang Yi have none? Not to mention anything else. Just that young girl from before instilled quite a bit of fear in Di Lian. He knew the dragon's strength very well. It was a primal demon that had cultivated for over 10,000 years. It was merely inferior to a primal true dragon in the dragon clan. But that black dragon had been beaten to death by the young girl. While he didn't know anything about her origins, he knew that she was no human, a mysterious demon beast. Di Lian had the intent to retreat, but Yang Yi was in such a state, and it was a state where he was impossible to reach. Moreover, Yang Yi was growing stronger as the battle progressed. Bang! 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 Explosions resounded incessantly in the air above the city. As time trickled by, Di Lian was being suppressed by Yang Yi instead. It was because Yang Ye's sword had grown faster and stronger. Raise the formation. Suddenly, Di Lian's voice resounded. As soon as he gave the order, a beam of light shot up into the air from deep beneath the ground and slammed against Yang Yi. Bang! Yang Yi was blasted over 3 kilometers away. He was pushed all the way out of the city. Meanwhile, a huge barrier of light appeared around the city, completely enveloped the city. At the same time, a white vortex of light appeared in the air above the city and rays of terrifying aura rippled out from within it. In the air above the city, Di Lian gazed coldly at Yang Yi. Attack! As soon as he gave the command, the white vortex suddenly started spinning, and then numerous beams of light that carried terrifying energy within them shot out like arcs of lightning from within the vortex. They were extremely fast. Yang Yi swung both his swords. Hiss! 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 Every single swing of his swords would slice apart a beam of light, but there were too many of them. Moreover, the energy they contained was too powerful. If this continued, he would be exhausted to death. Suddenly, the sword gourd trembled on Yang Ye's waist, and then a ray of light tore through the sky and stabbed the white vortex of light. Boom! It obliterated the white vortex of light. Executor. Yang Yi hadn't been using it earlier. Battle. As Sword Scroll had mentioned in the past, he needed to fight like a madman to fully awaken his bloodline. Ordinary 4-world realm experts were entirely incapable of making him enter a mad state. Now that he'd finally encountered an expert like Di Lian who could suppress him, he naturally refused to give up on such an opportunity. Thus, he hadn't chosen to use Executor. However, Di Lian refused to fight him in single combat and tried to use a formation. At this moment, Yang Yi instinctively used Executor. Just one attack and the formation was destroyed. In the sky above the city, Di Lian's face fell. The number 1 sword of Eternal Kingdom. He naturally recognized it. Once he destroyed the formation, Yang Yi charged at Di Lian again. As soon as he arrived above Di Lian, his swords descended. 5 swings with the sword domain. He was being serious now. Di Lian's eyes narrowed slightly. He squatted down slightly and formed a strange seal with both hands, and then a peerlessly powerful aura suddenly rippled out from him. As Yang Ye's swords descended, Di Lian raised his palms. The powerful aura they emanated immediately gained a target and surged up into the air. Boom! An explosion rumbled through the sky above the city. Both of them split up. Yang Yi returned to where he'd been a while ago, and Di Lian moved around 300 m back. As soon as he stopped himself, a flying sword soundlessly arrived before him. A flying sword. Di Lian's eyes narrowed slightly, and he pressed his palms together. Yang Ye's flying sword was instantly clamped between his palms, but the powerful force they carried pushed Di Lian backward repeatedly. Suddenly, Di Lian released his grip and moved his head slightly to the side. Hiss! The flying sword passed right by his face. The flying sword curved in an arc and shot back at him. But this time, the force it contained was much inferior than it had previously been. Di Lian slammed a punch forward, and the powerful impact from it forced the sword to a stop. But right at this moment, Yang Yi suddenly appeared behind him, and then 2 swords slashed down. Di Lian's eyes narrowed slightly. He twisted his right foot against the ground and stomped it down. Bang! A wave of powerful energy rippled out with him at its center. The energy forcefully pushed Yang Yi back, but at the instant that happened, a flying sword appeared before Di Lian's forehead. It would have stabbed into his forehead if it moved just half an inch forward. Di Lian had clamped the sword again with both palms, but right at this moment, Yang Yi suddenly appeared behind Executor, and then he grabbed it with his right hand and twisted. Hiss! A pair of palms flew up into the air while Di Lian himself was instantly blasted over 3 kilometers away by the energy unleashed by Executor. He'd taken Di Lian's palms. Di Lian stared indifferently at Yang Yi from afar. Yang Yi was about to continue when a voice suddenly resounded from behind him. "Brother Yang, please show mercy." Yang Yi ignored the voice and just charged at Di Lian. The voice resounded again. "Missin, please show yourself." And Nanjing appeared before Yang Yi, and Yang Yi swung his sword at her. But she didn't counterattack and just gazed at Yang Yi. The sword didn't descend completely in the end. It stopped just around 10 centimeters away from her head. The madness intent around Yang Yi gradually surged back into his body, and the blood vessels beneath his skin gradually returned to normal. Yang Yi closed his eyes slowly, and a long time passed before he turned around. Huang Ying was standing in front of him. Huang Ying smiled. "Congratulations. Your strength has improved quite a bit, Brother Yang. Anyway, can you let me say a few words?" Yang Yi said. "Go on." Huang Ying smiled. "Your objective is the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect, right?" Yang Yi nodded. "Yes, but I don't mind adding the D clan to my list." Di Lian's face remained indifferent when he heard Yang Yi. Huang Ying shook his head and smiled, and then he gazed at Di Lian. "Senior, there's no irreconcilable enmity between your clan and Yang Yi, but it's different for the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect. They tried to hunt and kill Brother Yang on many occasions in the past, so can you make them show themselves and let them resolve their issues on their own?" Di Lian glanced at Huang Ying. "They're subordinates of my D clan now." Huang Ying smiled. "Senior, I know the D clan has many trump cards, and I know you have many trump cards. But while the D clan has some, do you think Yang Yi doesn't? Not to mention anything else. Just that young girl and Missin are enough to give your D clan a huge headache. Right? Missin." Di Lian glanced at a Nanjing. Just as Huang Ying had said, she felt very dangerous to him, even more dangerous than Yang Yi. The young girl from before was another problem. Her physical strength was even more terrifying than a dragon, so it made him wonder what exactly her origins were. Meanwhile, Huang Ying added, "Senior Di Lian, my desolate race and your clan are working together. So to be honest, my desolate race doesn't hope to see your clan get into serious trouble. Of course, we don't want Yang Yi to get into serious trouble either. So I came here personally." Di Lian looked Huang Ying in the eyes. "Which side is your desolate race taking?" Huang Ying smiled. "Neither, but..." He shook his head and smiled at this point. "If it's my own personal opinion, then I would take Brother Yang's side." Di Lian's eyes narrowed. It was quite a tactful reply. Everyone knew that Huang Ying was the desolate race's crown prince. If he took Yang Ye's side, didn't it represent that the desolate race was taking Yang Ye's side? The desolate race was taking Yang Ye's side. Di Lian would naturally not think that Huang Ying was being impulsive. The desolate race had chosen Yang Yi instead of the D clan. Obviously, they looked more favorably upon him. Why did they think that? Moreover, why did the desolate race give up on taking the sprite progenitor in Yang Ye's possession? Even if Yang Yi and Huang Ying were friends, it wouldn't be enough to stop the desolate race. It was a sprite progenitor. After thinking about it for a long time, Di Lian glanced at Yang Yi. "My D clan has lost this battle. I've kicked out the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect from the Emperor world." He turned around and vanished on the spot. The D clan had admitted defeat. Huang Ying gazed at Yang Yi. "You don't blame me for this, right?" Yang Yi shook his head. He naturally wouldn't blame Huang Ying because he'd never planned on fighting the D clan to the death. Huang Ying spoke softly. "While the D clan is inferior to my desolate race and eternal kingdom, they aren't ordinary. If worse comes to worse, once Di Lian stops suppressing his cultivation, you will only have a 30% chance to defeat him, and he isn't the only 5-world realm expert in the D clan. Besides that, the patriarch of the D clan from all those years ago is still alive. He didn't show himself, but if he did, this incident would have become even more difficult to deal with. My ancestor, the Desolate Emperor, once fought with that ancestor of the D clan." He gazed at Yang Yi and continued. "Besides that, the D clan has some other old experts who survived from all those years ago. Once the D clan is in danger of being annihilated, all of them will show themselves. And once you drive them into a corner, Your strength isn't enough to resist them at all. Yang Yi nodded and glanced at the city. When will the war begin? He was naturally speaking about the war between the desolate race and eternal kingdom. Huang Ying smiled. Soon. Yang Yi nodded slightly, turned around, and left. Huang Ying asked, Where are you going? To kill. Yang Yi didn't even shoot a glance back at him. Kill. Huang Ying shook his head and smiled. He hadn't known Yang Yi for long, but he knew Yang Ye's temper very well. Absolutely vengeful. Yang Yi was an absolutely petty person, and one could only dream that he would be magnanimous upon offending him. Huang Ying turned around with the intent to leave, but a voice came from within the city. Crown Prince? Please come in. It was Di Lian's voice. Huang Ying didn't hesitate to enter the city. At this moment, the city was in a mess. Huang Ying and Di Lian walked side by side through the streets. Huang Ying spoke first. Senior, did you want to ask about his background? Di Lian nodded. My D clan suffered such a huge loss today, so I should at least know why, right? Huang Ying smiled. Actually, even I don't really know what it is. The reason my desolate race gave up on the sprite progenitor was naturally not me. However, even I don't know the real reason. This is the truth. He paused for a moment and continued. Actually, you should feel relieved. He possesses such strength at such a young age, so becoming enemies with him is a very unwise choice. Don't you think so too? Di Lian fell silent for a moment and replied. My D clan failed to give this proper consideration. The D clan had thought that while Yang Ye's strength wasn't bad, it wasn't great either. But they were wrong, it wasn't just not bad, he was very strong. Huang Ying nodded slightly. It's not too late, Di Lian suddenly said. I heard the Eternal Kingdom captured his father-in-law and even issued the highest warrant for him. Huang Ying glanced at Di Lian. You're quite well informed. Di Lian replied indifferently. The Eternal Kingdom isn't as easy to convince as my D clan. Huang Ying smiled. That's true. He stopped and continued. I have many other things to deal with back home, so I'll be taking my leave. Di Lian said. Eternal Kingdom isn't the same now. They've been waiting for this day since a very long time ago. Huang Ying smiled. My desolate race isn't the same either. He chuckled and left. Di Lian closed his eyes slowly. Regardless of whether it was the desolate race or Eternal Kingdom, they were stronger than the D clan. Which side should the D clan take? Anyone who took the wrong side throughout history had been destroyed. Once he left the Emperor world, he quickly contacted Nanli Meng, and she immediately gave him an answer without wasting her breath trying to persuade him. Yang Yi put the transmission talisman away and vanished on the spot. Eternal River. At this moment, a group was dashing madly above the river. They were the experts of the Creation Sect and Immortality Sect. They were rushing toward Eternal Kingdom. After they were driven out by the D clan, Zhao Wuji and the others knew very well that the Eternal Kingdom was their only hope. If they couldn't make Eternal Kingdom take them in, they would be finished. Yang Ye's strength was so great that even the D clan had to make a compromise. Flee. As far as they were concerned, they could only flee like madmen to Eternal Kingdom. Meanwhile, Yang Yi shot through space on his sword. Suddenly, he stopped and entered the primordial pagoda. On the ascension platform, Yang Yi went to the platform, and he saw the demons seated in a circle. At the center of them was a huge pot, and it was so huge that it was the largest he'd ever seen. There were chunks of meat in the pot. Arya was still commanding the others. Oxy, cut the remaining meat into smaller pieces. Tiger, put more oil in and those seasonings. Dragon, you go ask Big Sister N and the others if they want some dragon. The dragon was speechless. Meanwhile, Arya saw Yang Yi. Her eyes lit up and waved at him. Oh, Big Brother Yang. Your mind is clear again. Yang Yi was stunned speechless. Arya walked over to Yang Yi and pulled him over to the pot. Big Brother Yang, it's dragon meat in there. It's very delicious. Want to try some? Yang Yi glanced at it and asked, The black dragon? Arya nodded. Actually, that little dragon would definitely be more delicious than this black dragon. But it can't be helped. I can't kill it, right? Fortunately, This black dragon barely passes. So I'll just make do. Xianxia couldn't help but glance at her. Only Arya was capable of making dragon stew. Now, Xianxia finally understood why Butcher considered her a little demon. Meanwhile, Snowy went over to Xianxia, and there was a pearl in her paw. The dragon pearl. Arya said, "Big brother Yang, that's a great treasure. Your strength will improve quite a bit once you eat it." A dragon pearl. Xianxia hesitated for a moment, took it, and glanced at Arya and Snowy. "Have fun. I have things to attend to." Xianxia left the pagoda. Arya muttered softly, "He's definitely going to kill again." Snowy was at a loss for words. Arya pulled Snowy over to the pot. At this moment, the soul in it was boiling. Oxy and the others were staring at the pot. They were even on the verge of drooling. Actually, cooked or raw meat made no difference to them. However, Arya had been raised by humans, so she preferred cooked meat. It couldn't be helped. They had to let her have what she wanted. Moreover, Snowy didn't like raw meat either. She would just refuse if it was raw, but she would try it if it was cooked. Outside the primordial pagoda, Xianxia sped up, and it didn't take long for him to arrive at the eternal river. Xianxia gazed at the boundless river before him, and he didn't hesitate to fly over it on his sword. The eternal river was divided into 3 parts: downstream, midstream, and upstream. Upstream was the end of the river, and it was called its bank. The universe wall was right after it, and Eternal Kingdom was right beyond the wall. Xianxia quickly passed through the downstream area. There was no danger there, but he encountered trouble upon arriving at the midstream area. He encountered a colossal demon beast, an aquatic demon beast. It was quite familiar because he'd seen one just like this, a royal crocodile. It looked almost identical to the royal crocodile from before. However, it was pure black, and it was many times larger than the one he'd seen in the past. Besides that, it had a row of spikes on its back. These spikes were extremely long, and there were hundreds of them. A primal royal crocodile. Sword Scroll's voice resounded in Xianxia's mind. This is a pure-blooded primal royal crocodile, an aquatic overlord. Even the primal true dragon wouldn't dare to rashly fight it underwater. Their combat strength is greatly increased while underwater. A primal royal crocodile. Xianxia glanced at the primal royal crocodile that was looking at him. He thought for a moment and said, "Let me pass." The crocodile suddenly opened its mouth and roared. Bang! A pillar of water surged at Xianxia. Xianxia's eyes narrowed slightly, and he swung his sword. Hiss! It instantly sliced apart the pillar of water. But a colossus suddenly slammed itself at him. It was the primal royal crocodile. Xianxia frowned slightly and swung his sword. Bang! Xianxia was blasted away by it, and he flew over 3 kilometers back. However, there was a huge bloody injury on the crocodile's head. The crocodile was furious from being injured by Xianxia. It raised its head and roared, and then it charged at Xianxia again. The water in the area rippled, and then waves surged at Xianxia. These waves simply blotted out the sky. They were like a tsunami. Xianxia's gaze gradually turned icy cold. He was about to attack when Arya appeared before him. She glanced at Xianxia and said, "Big brother Yang, take a rest. Leave this fellow to me." She immediately charged at the crocodile once she finished speaking. Xianxia was stunned speechless. Bang! An explosion resounded, and then countless waves exploded apart and rained down like a storm. Xianxia looked over and saw Arya's fist slam against the crocodile's head, causing it to be blasted away. However, Arya didn't stop. She leaped up and slammed her figure against it. The crocodile's eyes were filled with viciousness. It had been utterly infuriated. Roar! The crocodile roared, and then it slammed its body at Arya. It had chosen a head-on collision. Xianxia couldn't help but close his eyes. He felt the crocodile was insane. Just like that, they slammed against each other. Boom! The river water in the surroundings surged up into the clouds. As for the crocodile, it howled with pain as it flew away. This time, its head had cracked open, and the flesh within was clearly visible. Moreover, Its entire body was covered in cracks. Blood was spraying in all directions. Everywhere it passed. It dyed the river water blood red. Arya patted her own head. She felt a little dizzy because she'd hit it a little too hard just now. It didn't take long for her to shake her head and look at the crocodile. She was about to attack again when Snowy appeared in front of her. Snowy pointed at the crocodile and pointed at herself. Arya blinked. Snowy, I think we shouldn't try to make it submit. We should kill it and eat it. That's our real style. Snowy blinked and hurriedly shook her head. She pointed at the crocodile to display that they could recruit it to fight for them. Arya felt quite helpless. But I want to eat it. Snowy passed a tonghulu to her. Snowy was telling her to eat tonghulu instead. Arya patted Snowy's head. Snowy, tonghulu isn't as tasty as meat. Moreover, as a demon, it's definitely very unyielding. Trust me, it won't surrender, and it won't submit to you. Suddenly, the primal royal crocodile spoke. I'm willing to surrender. I am willing to submit. Arya was stunned, and then she gazed at it. Fuck! Submit! The primal royal crocodile was no fool. It was very well aware that it had bitten off more than it could chew. It could be said that if it didn't choose to surrender, then it would definitely be eaten alive by that young girl. Of course, most importantly, that white little fellow over there seemed to be the sprite progenitor. The sprite progenitor. The crocodile wasn't very certain. Snowy was delighted when she heard it, and she quickly flew over it and patted it on the head. She was very pleased. The crocodile was certain once it saw Snowy from up close. The sprite progenitor. This little fellow really was the sprite progenitor. Snowy waved her paws to tell the crocodile to become smaller. The latter clearly understood her and immediately shrunk over 10 times smaller. Snowy grinned and was even more pleased. Just like that, she took it into the primordial pagoda. Snowy even selected the ocean for it. Presently, it was the only demon in that ocean. The crocodile was absolutely overjoyed by this. Controlled the entire ocean in this world. Outside the primordial pagoda, Arya walked over to Yang Yi and spoke solemnly. Big brother Yang, Snowy can't keep doing this. I won't get to eat so much meat if she keeps doing this. Yang Yi was at a loss for words. Arya sighed softly. Big brother Yang, you should work harder. Snowy is recruiting so many lackeys all because of you. If you were stronger, she wouldn't recruit more. If she stops recruiting, I'll get to eat lots of meat. So, in conclusion, the reason I can't eat lots of meat is you. It's your fault, so you must compensate me. Understand? Yang Yi glared at her. Are you looking for a beating? Arya stuck out her tongue at him and ran off into the pagoda. In the primordial pagoda, Arya went to the crocodile's territory, and the crocodile that had been floating on the surface immediately sank down. It didn't take long for the crocodile to reach the bottom. It didn't dare to show itself. That young girl was too terrifying. Arya grunted coldly and left to continue cooking her dragon meat. Outside the primordial pagoda, Yang Yi continued forward. This time, he didn't encounter any powerful demon beasts. Of course, there were many powerful demon beasts at the peak of the four-world realm here. Now, he finally understood why this place was so difficult to cross. There were no 5-world realm experts in Eternal Border, and the 4-world realm was the peak. But this place was filled with peak 4-world realm demon beasts. Not only were there many of them, all of them were very strong too. Could be said that ordinary 4-world realm experts weren't able to fight them at all. Ordinary 4-world realm experts would be courting death by coming here. However, he didn't see Zhao Wuji's group all along the way. Yang Yi seemed to have thought of something, and a cold smile curled up on his lips. Yang Yi continued forward, and it didn't take long for him to arrive upstream. The water here was very calm, like it was deathly still. It shouldn't be this still. However, Yang Yi was strong and brave, so he didn't care. In any case, he had Arya and Snowy, so no matter what demon beast he faced, he could fight them even if he couldn't subdue them. Or it should be said that he could beat them up first before subduing them. Arya would be the bad one, and Snowy would be the good one. They worked really well together. Suddenly, the river water before Yang Yi rippled, and then it parted before him. It didn't take long for a mermaid to appear in front of him. Yang Yi looked her in the eyes. "Move aside. I won't repeat myself." She looked Yang Yi in the eyes. "Is she the sprite progenitor?" Yang Yi nodded. The mermaid fell silent for a short while and said, "Don't go further." Yang Yi asked, "Why?" She replied softly, "Those people you're pursuing did pass through here. However, they were being escorted, and they wanted us demons in the Eternal River to stop you." Yang Yi asked, "The experts of Eternal Kingdom?" The mermaid nodded. "They're very strong, and they are waiting for you." Waiting for Yang Yi. Yang Yi suddenly chuckled. At this moment, he finally understood why Eternal Kingdom had captured the governor of White Emperor City. It was to lure him to them, and they accepted Zhao Wuji's group so that he would be lured over as well. Simply speaking, they were intentionally making him go to them. Yang Yi restrained his thoughts and gazed at the mermaid. "Why are you telling me all of this?" She replied, "All those years ago, if that sprite progenitor hadn't been benevolent, then all of us would have died during that calamity. You have the sprite progenitor with you, and my instinct tells me that you're not an evil person. So, you decide if you wish to continue forward or not." Once she finished speaking, she was about to leave. Suddenly, Yang Yi said, "Come with me." She was stunned and forgot to answer him. Yang Yi continued, "Chaos is about to arrive in this world. It's very dangerous to stay here. Of course, you decide if you want to go with me." Meanwhile, Snowy appeared before her. Snowy cracked a smile and raised a fruit toward the mermaid. The chaotic fruit. The mermaid gulped when she saw it. "Is that for me?" Snowy nodded and passed it to her. She accepted it with slightly trembling hands. She naturally knew what it was. A short while passed before she glanced at Snowy and gazed at Yang Yi. "I'll go with you." Yang Yi felt quite helpless because Snowy was still much better at it than him. Just like that, Yang Ye's army of demon beasts had one more member in it. Once she arrived in the primordial pagoda, she quickly became friends with the primal true dragon and the others. She even had quite a good relationship with Arya. It was because she'd brought lots of underwater delicacies and some pearls that contained extremely pure spirit energy. Arya was very fond of those pearls, so she asked for over a dozen from the mermaid. After that, she invited the mermaid to enjoy their dragon feast. Dragon meat. When she gazed at the pot of dragon meat and thought of the chaotic fruit she'd put away, it was the first time in her life that she felt that good people were rewarded for their good deeds. She'd merely been grateful to the previous sprite progenitor, so she'd warned Yang Yi and the current sprite progenitor. She hadn't expected her kindness to bring such tremendous change to her life. The four-world realm had been the end of her path of cultivation. But now, with that fruit in her grasp and the sprite progenitor's assistance, the five-world realm didn't seem difficult at all. On the ascension platform, the demons circled the huge pot and started feasting. Snowy frequently tasted a few small pieces too. She felt it wasn't bad, so she had a few more. Outside the primordial pagoda, Yang Yi sped up and continued forward. He knew that something was waiting for him ahead, and he was very well aware of the situation he was about to face. It didn't take long for Yang Yi to see the end of the river. There was a bridge there. The bridge wasn't very long, and it led to the end ahead. Yang Yi appeared on the bridge, and he saw a row of words there. "I'll be waiting in Eternal Kingdom, Xianxia." Xianxia. Yang Yi walked over to those words, and he gazed at them for a long time before he suddenly started laughing. "You really have gone to Eternal Kingdom?" Once he found out that she hadn't died, Yang Yi knew that she should have gone to Eternal Kingdom. Yang Yi looked up into the distance, grinned, and sped up. Yang Yi was just halfway through the bridge when the river water on both sides started to roil, and then they rose up to form a barrier of water. The barrier of water enveloped the bridge and Yang Yi within it. There were countless mysterious talismans on the barrier of water, and they flowed along with the water. Moreover, the world within the barrier of water transformed into a void. It was a world of its own. A person appeared before Yang Yi, Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji laughed coldly. "Yang Yi, do you know what this is?" "This." Yang Yi suddenly drew his sword and swung it. A ray of sword energy flashed, and it flashed through Zhao Wuji's body. However, Zhao Wuji was completely fine. It wasn't his actual body. Yang Yi frowned slightly. Zhao Wuji laughed coldly. Don't waste your strength. This isn't my real body. It's just a projection. This is an illusory water barrier created by an extraordinary expert of Eternal Kingdom. It forms an independent world. Of course, the important part is that it's a mid-level world, a temporary mid-level world. Haha! A temporary mid-level world can support a 5-world realm expert. So suppression to the 4-world realm isn't necessary. A temporary mid-level world. Yang Yi glanced at the surroundings. Yang Yi naturally understood what Zhao Wuji was trying to say. In other words, it was a 5-world realm expert of Eternal Kingdom who was here to kill him. A real 5-world realm expert. Zhao Wuji added, Yang Yi, that 5-world realm expert from Eternal Kingdom is about to be here. Everyone from my Creation Sect and the Immortality Sect will be watching you die. So just wait for death to take you. As soon as he finished speaking, he gradually vanished amidst roaring laughter. Only Yang Yi remained within the barrier. Yang Yi didn't try to break it. He just closed his eyes slowly and stood there with his sword in hand. It didn't take long for a middle-aged man to appear out of thin air before him. A 5-world realm expert. The middle-aged man's aura was deep as an ocean and simply boundless. It even made an invisible wave of pressure appear on Yang Yi. In the primordial pagoda, the mermaid suddenly asked, Should we go outside and help? Arya took a huge bite of meat and shook her head. No. Big brother Yang is strong. If he's no match for that fellow, then we aren't either. Moreover, even if we're gonna fight, we should fight on a full stomach. Come on, let's continue. The other demons exchanged glances. In the end, they gazed at Snowy. Snowy blinked and was about to respond when Arya suddenly tore off a small piece of meat and raised it before Snowy's mouth. This is tasty. Snowy was stunned. Snowy started eating too, because Yang Yi was the strongest in Snowy's heart. Unless she saw Yang Yi being beaten down with her own eyes. Yang Yi was the strongest and most invincible in her world. As for Yang Ye's strength, she had no idea how strong it was. Outside the primordial pagoda, Yang Yi and the middle-aged man's gazes met. They were just a few meters away from each other. The middle-aged man said, That woman you killed was my subordinate. To be honest, I was mostly shocked when I heard that you killed her. You're just at the true Tao realm now. Of course, you're intentionally suppressing your cultivation, but it still really shocked me. We knew that besides the 5-world realm, 4-world realm experts would just be giving their lives away in battle against you. So, I'm here. He shook his head and chuckled. Once I saw you, I knew that even I am not fully confident in being able to kill you. My chances are only 70% at most. But that's enough for me. Yang Yi suddenly opened his eyes. I've been to the desolate race, and they really surprised me. I think something about them is very good, and it's that they only believe in themselves and only rely on themselves. They never entrust their hopes to others, and they would never entrust their hopes to a future sprite progenitor. What about your eternal kingdom? The middle-aged man laughed. Actually, you're mistaken. We haven't entrusted our hopes to the sprite progenitor. There are many reasons why we want the sprite progenitor, like our unwillingness to let it fall into the desolate race's hands. Moreover, the sprite progenitor should take the side of the righteous, right? The righteous. Yang Yi laughed with ridicule. Eternal kingdom is righteous? Don't tell me you don't know why the desolate race wishes to invade you. The middle-aged man walked to the side, looked into the distance, and gazed at Zhao Wuji's group. Eternal Kingdom refuses to let the people of other universes enter it, and so they fight back. Actually, our ancestors expected this situation. But what do you think we should do? Open the doors to Eternal Kingdom and let everyone enter. Yang Yi replied with a question. Can't you? The middle-aged man shook his head and chuckled. You're too young. Yang Yi, you've come all the way here from a small world, and you've experienced a lot. Let me ask you something. What is the usual cause of a world's destruction? A world's destruction. Yang Yi frowned slightly and waited for the man to continue. The middle-aged man gazed at Yang Yi. At most times, The world is destroyed not because of external forces, and not because of destiny. At most times, it's actually us humans that court death on our own. Seizing. The humans in every world are madly seizing from their world without any restraint. A world's resources are not limitless. Even a high-level world like Eternal Kingdom has finite resources. He chuckled at this point. Perhaps you're unaware, but those people who were the first to reach Eternal Kingdom were actually from all around this universe. Once they arrived in Eternal Kingdom, they came together and made a decision. It was to close up Eternal Kingdom and ceaselessly strengthen the universe wall around Eternal Kingdom. So, the people of the other worlds are unable to enter Eternal Kingdom. Perhaps you think it's a very selfish act, but allow me to be honest, if they didn't do that, then Eternal Kingdom may have vanished by now. Even if it still exists, it would definitely be in its end times. Xianxia said, "So, doing all of this makes you righteous?" The middle-aged man shook his head. There's no need to consider righteousness. History is always written by the winner, and the winner is righteous while the loser is the evil side. I'm just trying to tell you that while it was selfish motivations which made Eternal Kingdom do that, these selfish motivations allowed Eternal Kingdom to remain until now. Moreover, Eternal Kingdom has a covenant of the strong. Xianxia asked, "The covenant of the strong?" The middle-aged man nodded. Once an expert at a certain level of strength dies in battle or at the end of their lifespans, they will disintegrate themselves and return all their energy back to the world. All the ancestors of Eternal Kingdom did that when they perished. Moreover, countless talisman masters and formation masters in Eternal Kingdom are tirelessly studying how to infinitely produce more spirit energy. I'm sure you heard that Eternal Kingdom has an extraordinary spirit vein, a divine vein. It's precisely why Eternal Kingdom has been able to infinitely delay the arrival of its end times. And for the sake of protecting it, Eternal Kingdom has exhausted huge amounts of effort and time. Xianxia shook his head. "Sorry, that has nothing to do with me." The middle-aged man said, "I naturally said so much to you because it has something to do with you. My Eternal Kingdom needs the sprite progenitor because only the joint forces of the sprite progenitor and divine vein can truly allow Eternal Kingdom's spirit energy and resources to be reproduced infinitely. Everyone in Eternal Kingdom needs the sprite progenitor. So we must obtain her." Xianxia laughed coldly. "You need the sprite progenitor, so you try to take her by force and kill to obtain her? I won't say anything about the fact that you hunted me. After all, we're mortal enemies, so hunting me down isn't wrong. However, what did the people of Eternal Village do wrong? Just because they know me, so they must be annihilated? Is that so?" The middle-aged man said. "Besides my lord, there are many other voices in Eternal Kingdom, and some of them are very extreme. That incident—" "Extreme?" A ferocious smile curled up on Xianxia's lips. "I'm more extreme than all of you." As soon as he said that, Xianxia stopped wasting his breath and transformed into a ray of light that shot at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man shook his head slightly and stopped talking as well. He raised his right hand before him and used his palm to stop Xianxia's sword. However, Xianxia suddenly twisted his sword with both hands. At the same time, a wave of powerful energy rippled out from the middle-aged man's palm. Bang! Xianxia was blasted over 300 m away, and his figure slammed against the barrier. Bang! The barrier shook but only took a short moment to stop shaking. The middle-aged man glanced at his palm, and there was a tiny hole there. It had been stabbed open by Xianxia's sword. He'd used his energy to envelop his palm, but it had still been pierced. The middle-aged man gazed at Xianxia. "As expected of my Eternal Kingdom's #1 sword, it's very sharp. Unfortunately, your strength isn't enough yet. You can't fully utilize its strength." As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Xianxia, and then a wave of powerful energy slammed down on the ladder. It seemed like the sky was collapsing upon Xianxia, and the heaviness of it made Xianxia feel suffocated while his internal organs almost exploded apart. Suddenly, Xianxia's figure turned ethereal, and then a ray of sword energy slashed down. The sword domain. At the critical moment, Xianxia had used the sword domain again. After 5 swings, he added one more. 6 swings with the sword domain. Bang! As soon as the 6th swing descended, the world created by the barrier shook violently. At the same time, the middle-aged man was pushed back repeatedly until his figure slammed against the barrier. This time, his palm had cracked open. The middle-aged man looked up at Xianxia, and then a flying sword suddenly shot at him. The middle-aged man raised his hand and swept it forward. Bang! It swept the flying sword away. Meanwhile, he clenched his left fist and slammed it at Xianxia. The air within the barrier was completely blasted apart by this punch, and explosions resounded incessantly. At the same time, a wave of powerful energy filled this world within the barrier. It was ceaselessly trying to blast Xianxia into bits. If Xianxia hadn't used his sword intent and slaughter intent to stop it in time, he may have been blasted into mush by it. However, the energy was too strong. Xianxia's sword intent and slaughter intent were being ceaselessly destroyed. The middle-aged man walked slowly in Xianxia's direction. Your strength is not bad indeed. If I suppressed my cultivation, I would be no match for you. Unfortunately, I don't have to suppress my cultivation in here. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his right hand, and the energy in the surroundings suddenly converged above Xianxia. Right when he was about to press his palm down, Xianxia, who'd been bitterly holding on until now, suddenly leaped up and slashed his sword at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed slightly, and he swung his right palm down like a blade. The energy he'd converged earlier instantly appeared before him and blasted down. The sword arrived. Boom! As soon as Xianxia's sword descended, he was blasted away. But this time, the middle-aged man was blasted away as well. Once he stopped himself, a wisp of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. 6 swings with the sword domain. That previous attack had been 6 overlapped swings with the sword domain. Even the middle-aged man hadn't been able to resist it completely. But Xianxia was in a worse state. There was a price to pay for swings 6 times with the sword domain, and he'd done so twice in a short period. So, the price he paid was quite severe. Xianxia's countenance was pale while cracks covered his body, and blood had completely enveloped him. The middle-aged man gazed at Xianxia. According to my estimations, you'll have to execute an attack like that at least 20 times to have a chance at killing me. Unfortunately, you can't even execute it once more. Right? The middle-aged man walked slowly in Xianxia's direction while he spoke. Meanwhile, strands of faint, baleful energy appeared around Xianxia, and it grew stronger and stronger. Madness intent. Once Xianxia released his madness intent, the blood vessels beneath his skin suddenly started to tremble. At the same time, the madness intent and aura he emanated grew increasingly stronger. The entire world within the barrier of water was shaking violently. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed slightly. A bloodline! Bloodline! He was naturally capable of discerning that Xianxia's aura had risen explosively because of Xianxia's bloodline and not the madness intent. The middle-aged man naturally knew the power of bloodlines well. It was something like a divine technique. The stronger a person's ancestor was, the greater the bloodline would be, and the energy it contained would naturally be stronger. Of course, it depended on how much of it the user had activated. But Xianxia seemed to have not truly activated it at all. The middle-aged man restrained his thoughts, stretched out his hands, and waved them lightly. Hiss! The space before Xianxia rippled like water, and then waves of powerful energy rippled out from it. The energy was so strong that if it appeared in the outside world, it would obliterate the space in a huge area throughout Eternal River with absolute ease. Suddenly, Xianxia looked up, and the veins on his arms bulged. They were huge and they were emitting blood-red light. Xianxia stomped his right foot down. Bang! The world shook, and then Xianxia swung his sword with both hands. Hiss! This attack could split apart the world. As soon as it descended, the space before Xianxia was split open, and so was the energy that the middle-aged man had unleashed. The middle-aged man frowned. Xianxia's strength had been enhanced to a level that exceeded his expectations. Suddenly, a ray of light arrived before him, and the middle-aged man clamped down lightly with 2 fingers and clamped the sword energy. He didn't say a word and just twisted his body sideways to slam it against Yang Yi. Suddenly, Yang Yi raised his knee. Bang! A figure was blasted away. It was Yang Yi. His strength was still quite inferior when compared to the middle-aged man. However, Yang Ye's figure instantly shot up after being blasted away, and he charged at the middle-aged man again. This time, Executor suddenly entered the sword gourd, and then 2 swords appeared in his grasp. The Sword Supreme and Sword Precursor. Dual swords. The Madness Sword Technique. 200 swings descended in a breath of time. How fast was it? How dense was it? However, the middle-aged man wasn't troubled by it at all because he just used his powerful strength to repulse Yang Yi. Overwhelming strength. But every time he was blasted back, Yang Yi would charge again over and over again. A solemn expression gradually appeared in the middle-aged man's eyes. Yang Yi wasn't just using 2 swords but 3, because the sword within the sword gourd would fly out from time to time. The middle-aged man started to truly treat Yang Yi as an equal in battle. In the primordial pagoda, the demon beasts, Snowy, and Arya were seated on the ascension platform. They were all looking outside, and it was naturally because of the pagoda. So long as the pagoda willed it, everyone within it could see the outside world at all times. Anxiety. Snowy was very anxious because the middle-aged man seemed very strong, and Yang Yi was constantly being blasted away. Arya patted Snowy lightly and consoled her. "Don't be afraid. Big brother Yang will be fine." Snowy gazed at her, and then she waved her paws. She was asking Arya to help Yang Yi. Arya laughed bitterly. "Snowy, I can't help now. Big brother Yang has gone insane, and he may even attack me if I try to help him." Snowy seemed to have thought of something and vanished on the spot. It didn't take long for her to find a Nanjing in the mountains behind the Sword Sect. At this moment, a Nanjing was watching the battle outside, and Nameless was in her grasp. She was ready to take action at any moment. Snowy gazed at her anxiously and pointed upward. And Nanjing glanced at Snowy and said, "He's fine. Go eat. Eat." Snowy had a bitter expression on her face. After all, how could she have the appetite to eat right now? Meanwhile, a Nanjing suddenly patted Snowy's head. "He's very strong, and he can be stronger. Trust him. Very strong." Snowy looked up at the sky. She just happened to say the middle-aged man slammed his fist into Yang Ye's stomach, and then Yang Yi was punched away. Snowy immediately started crying when she witnessed this. On the ascension platform, Arya was still eating from the pot. However, she frequently shot glances up above. She was naturally not a heartless person, and she was ready. She would immediately take action if Yang Ye's life was in danger. She was right within Yang Yi, so it would only take a moment for her to attack. As for the other demons, they could only watch. Perhaps only the primal true dragon had the strength to fight against a 5-world realm expert, and the others couldn't resist a 5-world realm expert at all. It was suppression due to the gap in their realms of cultivation. Outside the pagoda, Yang Yi was blasted away again, but it only took a moment for him to charge at the middle-aged man again. The middle-aged man and everyone else hadn't noticed that the red light around Yang Yi was growing stronger. Meanwhile, the blood within Yang Yi seemed to start boiling. Yang Ye's strength was growing increasingly stronger too. The middle-aged man had obviously noticed the increase in Yang Ye's strength, and he knew that if he allowed this fight to drag on, then Yang Yi would be the one who suppressed him instead. The middle-aged man tapped his foot down and floated backward. A moment later, a golden disc appeared in his grasp. It was extremely thin like the wings of a cicada, and it was practically translucent. Suddenly, he formed a strange seal with both hands, and then rays of golden light rippled out from the disc. If one looked carefully, one would notice that the golden light was actually a myriad of fine blades, and they were so fine they were practically invisible. The blades shot at Yang Yi like a storm. A divine treasure. The golden disc was a divine treasure. A 5-world realm expert using a divine treasure was absolutely capable of fully bringing forth the might of it. In the primordial pagoda, and Nanjing frowned slightly while her spear trembled slightly. It seemed to have sensed its owner's desire to fight. Meanwhile, Arya had stopped eating too, and the tip of her foot was gently rubbing against the ascension platform, outside the primordial pagoda. At this moment, Yang Yi instinctively sensed danger. He took a step back and then slowly raised both swords. At the same time, his figure started to turn ethereal, and then his swords descended. Dual swords with the sword domain. 10 swings. While they weren't overlapped, they surged forth at the same time, so the force they carried was absolutely terrifying. Hiss! Hiss! Sharp sounds of something tearing open resounded. It wasn't just space. It was a wave of powerful energy that was being sliced open as well. Rumble. The space throughout the entire world within the barrier started to collapse, inch by inch. Even the barrier itself started to tremble violently, and then numerous cracks appeared on it. Zhao Wuji and the others witnessed this scene, and their faces grew extremely unsightly. Besides that, they felt absolutely shocked. The 5-world realm. The middle-aged man in the barrier was a true 5-world realm expert. However, even such an expert couldn't kill Yang Yi. So, how strong was Yang Yi? Mo Liang suddenly asked. Should we leave? Leave. Zhao Wuji's face was quite pale. Where will we go? Eternal Kingdom may have agreed to take us in, but have you not noticed? They don't plan to open up the universe wall, and do you think our strength is sufficient to open the wall? It's impossible. If the expert of Eternal Kingdom fails to kill Yang Yi, then we'll do it ourselves. Yang Yi would be at his weakest then, so our joint forces will definitely be able to annihilate him. The others behind him nodded to display their agreement. At this moment, Yang Yi should almost be at his limit. So, even if Yang Yi won, he would be severely injured. They definitely had the strength to kill him then. They got ready to attack at any moment while they waited. In the barrier, space collapsed inch by inch, but the barrier still remained. However, there were many cracks on it. Yang Yi and the middle-aged man had suffered varying degrees of injuries. Yang Ye's injuries were more severe while the middle-aged man's injuries were lighter. However, Yang Ye's recovery was fast. Very fast. Their battle was almost at its end. In the barrier, Yang Yi laid on the ground while the middle-aged man leaned against a wall. His body was covered with cuts from a sword. Yang Ye's tenacity had utterly exceeded his expectations. Suddenly, Yang Yi crawled back up, and the middle-aged man's eyes narrowed slightly from the sight of this. At the same time, he clenched both his hands, but they weren't clenched that tight. It didn't take long for Yang Yi to walk toward the middle-aged man with swords in his grasp, and the madness intent on him hadn't just remained. It was even growing in denseness. Yang Yi was also emanating a blood-red glow, and it was not slaughter intent. It was a bloody glow. The blood beneath his skin was surging even more violently. It had started to undergo a qualitative transformation. The middle-aged man closed his eyes slowly. My eternal kingdom is in danger while you live. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly stood up, and then an extremely powerful aura swept out from him before he charged at Yang Yi. Crack! The cracks on the barrier of water around them instantly started growing. He was overexhausting himself. At this moment, the middle-aged man was using a powerful secret technique to overexhaust his body. It was an attack that was much stronger than any attack he'd unleashed before this. Suddenly, Yang Yi howled with fury. Boom! A wave of powerful blood-red light surged out from him. His bloodline had finally been activated. In the primordial pagoda, Sword Scroll stared at Yang Yi. Let me see how strong your clan's ancestor was. Bloodline. The blood within Yang Yi surged like lava, and strands of blood surged throughout Yang Ye's body. Moreover, the swords in Yang Ye's grasp had been covered by a thin layer of blood-red light. Arg! A hysterical roar resounded within the barrier, and then Yang Yi slashed both his swords forward. Hiss! The barrier around Yang Yi instantly exploded apart. The barrier was gone. As for the energy unleashed by the middle-aged man, it was sliced open by Yang Ye's attack, and then Yang Ye's figure shot through along with his swords. A ray of sword energy shot through the middle-aged man's chest, and his figure stiffened. Yang Yi was behind the middle-aged man, but it only took a moment for his figure to crash down as well. He was exhausted. At this point in the battle, he'd truly reached his limits. Both his soul and body were at their limit. At this moment, he couldn't even move a muscle. He'd been relying on that last bit of determination to fight until the end, and now even that was gone. Suddenly, a few dozen people charged over from the surroundings. It was Zhao Wuji's group. Yang Ye's eyes were closed. He sensed their arrival, but he didn't have the strength to do anything about it. Yang Yi was absolutely satisfied by the battle he just had. He'd been able to fight without holding back at all. It was a truly enjoyable battle. Zhao Wuji and the others stared at Yang Ye's figure on the ground, and excitement and ferocity filled their eyes. Yang Yi was right before them, and they would have nothing to worry about once they killed him. Moreover, as far as they were concerned, Yang Yi was at his weakest right now. Not only would they have no worries once Yang Yi was dead, they would obtain the sprite progenitor and all the treasures in Yang Ye's possession. The more they thought about it, the more excited they became. It didn't take long for them to arrive before Yang Yi. Suddenly, a woman appeared by Yang Ye's side. It was a Nanjing. And Nanjing glanced at them and said, "I'll leave them to all of you." On the ascension platform in the primordial pagoda, Arya cracked a smile. "Dragon, all of you've been leeching off of Big Brother Yang for so long. So it's time to do something. I'm not interested in these weaklings, so I'll leave them to all of you." All of the demons immediately left the pagoda once they received her orders. Outside the primordial pagoda, Zhao Wuji's group was stunned when they saw so many primal demons before them, especially when there was an actual primal true dragon before them. When Snowy saw the state Yang Yi was in, Snowy immediately started crying on a Nanjing's shoulder. After that, she gazed at Zhao Wuji's group, and her eyes were filled with anger. She pointed at them and then made a beheading gesture. Oxy was the first to charge over. He was always Snowy's most loyal follower. The dragon and the others weren't much slower. All of them charged at Zhao Wuji's group. Zhao Wuji and the others turned absolutely pale. However, they had no way out now and could only face the battle before them. And Nanjing, Snowy, and Arya ignored Zhao Wuji's group, and they gazed at Yang Yi instead. At this moment, Yang Yi was in an extremely horrifying state, and his body was on the verge of shattering. If it wasn't for the primordial violet energy, Yang Yi would be dead by now. Arya placed a finger before Yang Ye's nose, and a short while passed before she cracked a smile at Snowy and a Nanjing. "He's still breathing." Snowy glared at Arya, and a Nanjing glanced at her too, causing the latter to hurriedly admit her mistakes. I won't make jokes like that again." She hurriedly stood obediently behind a Nanjing once she finished speaking. And Nanjing naturally wouldn't make a fuss about it. Arya was just a child, and she was like that with everyone. And Nanjing glanced at Yang Yi, and her face eased up slightly. It didn't take long for her to look toward the side. The middle-aged man's body hadn't fully vanished. The middle-aged man was about to speak when a spear suddenly stabbed into his head. Arya was horrified by this, and even Snowy was quite afraid. It could be said that Yang Yi wasn't the most terrifying in the primordial pagoda, nor was it Arya or Snowy. It was a Nanjing. And Nanjing squatted down and was about to transport Yang Yi into the primordial pagoda. But as soon as she touched him, a wave of powerful blood-red light rippled out from him. The blood-red light pushed a Nanjing back quite a distance. And Nanjing glanced at her hand, and her skin had actually been blasted off. And Nanjing gazed at Yang Yi. His bloodline. Indeed. Suddenly, Sword Scroll appeared beside a Nanjing. And Nanjing gazed at Sword Scroll and the latter spoke softly. "His bloodline has been activated, or I should say that it has been fully activated. Now, it has been transformed into the purest version of the Yang clan's mad demon bloodline. His bloodline is modifying his body, and it's instinctively protecting its owner right now. He will know exactly how he has changed, so let's just wait and see." And Nanjing nodded and looked to the right. The demons were in battle with Zhao Wuji's group. Suppression. Those demons were simply crushing Zhao Wuji's group. Most of the human experts had already been killed. No, they had been devoured alive. And Nanjing moved her gaze away and looked toward the side. At the end of the bridge was a strange wall, the universe wall. Sword Scroll spoke softly. Break through that wall and you'll get to Eternal Kingdom. And Nanjing replied indifferently. Will that be the beginning or the end? Obviously, she was speaking about Xianxia's problems. Sword Scroll spoke solemnly. The beginning. Based on what that 5-world realm expert told Xianxia, Eternal Kingdom needs Snowy. They want to use Snowy to produce an endless supply of spirit energy for Eternal Kingdom. It's linked to the eternal preservation and survival of Eternal Kingdom, so they won't give up. However, now that Xianxia has killed a 5-world realm expert, they won't rashly send another. Even if they do, they will send someone stronger. And Nanjing glanced at Snowy, who was lying by Xianxia's side, and her gaze became gentle. So, how much do you think she's worth if we sold her? Sword Scroll was stunned speechless. Sell the sprite progenitor? She was a priceless treasure. It didn't take long for Sword Scroll to start smiling instead. She realized that Nanjing had started being mischievous too. Ah! Suddenly, a hysterical cry resounded from afar, and Nanjing and Sword Scroll looked over, and they saw Zhao Wuji being torn apart by the primal true dragon before being swallowed. The battle was over. Zhao Wuji and the others were all dead, and Nanjing glanced at the dragon and the other demon beasts. They need to fight. Sword Scroll nodded. If they didn't fight frequently, it wouldn't be long before they became weaklings who were raised on a farm. And Nanjing gazed at Arya. From now on, they'll be under you. You will teach them. Right, it's basically beating them up. Just don't kill them. Arya felt speechless. Battle. All the demon beasts had to fight incessantly because only incessant battle could help them maintain their combat strength. Otherwise, if they continued without fighting for a long time, they would probably even forget how to fight. Just like that, their days of misery began. It was especially so for the primal royal crocodile because Arya couldn't stand the sight of it. Now, she finally had an excuse to beat it up. As soon as she thought of that, Arya was exceptionally happy. And then she immediately summoned all the demon beasts into the pagoda. On the ascension platform, Arya placed her hands behind her back, and then she walked by all the demon beasts. I presume all of you have heard. Yes, Big Sister and gave me a mission, and it's to beat all of you up. Oh no, I meant to train all of you. Do you know what training is? It doesn't matter if you don't. In any case, you just have to understand that all of you will have to receive training from now on, just like I do. Big Sister and will train me, and I will train all of you. You don't have any objections to that, right? If you do, go ahead and tell me. I guarantee that I won't kill you. Oh, I mean, I'll reason with you. I, Arya, am a reasonable person. All the demons on the ascension platform exchanged glances. Meanwhile, the primal royal crocodile suddenly said, I don't need training. Swoosh. All the others gazed at the crocodile. The crocodile felt a chill run down its spine, and it wondered if it had said something wrong. Oxy shook his head. What a stupid crocodile. Even Oxy had realized that Arya was looking for someone to make an example of. She was looking for someone, and that fool just had to offer up itself. Suddenly, Arya walked over to the crocodile. Why don't you need training? The crocodile was clearly quite afraid of her. It hesitated for a moment and said, I don't need it. I. Suddenly, Arya slammed a punch at its head. Bang! The crocodile was blasted away, and it glared at Arya once it crawled up from the ground. You? Suddenly, Arya shot over and kicked its head, causing it to be kicked away again. All the others here were speechless. The crocodile crawled up again, and there was a vicious glow in its eyes. It charged at Arya. The others shook their heads and couldn't bear to watch when they saw this. It only took a moment for the crocodile to arrive in front of Arya, and then it bit at her. Obviously, its instinct as a demon had been fully aroused by her. Arya remained indifferent as she shot up into the air and slammed her fist against its mouth. The powerful force of the collision blasted the crocodile away. Moreover, countless teeth accompanied by blood flew out of its mouth. Arya didn't stop after she punched it away, and she charged over and kicked it again. Bang! The crocodile growled with pain as it flew once more. The crocodile was about to climb back up when Aria's foot stomped down on its head. A vicious and ferocious glow still remained in the crocodile's eyes, and as soon as she noticed that, Aria immediately slapped it on its head. Bang! Even its scales were slapped apart. Aria kicked its stomach, and the latter was kicked over 300 m away. Aria walked over to it and stomped her foot down on its head. You don't need training? Tell me, why don't you need training? I'm so strong. Yet I still have to be beaten up by Big Sister and... No, I mean I still have to be trained by Big Sister and... You're so weak yet you don't want to be trained? Are you trying to live here for free? Now I'll give you a chance to reconsider. Answer me. Do you want to accept your training? Silent. The area was very quiet. All the demons were looking at Aria and the crocodile. All the demons saw the same thing in Aria's eyes. The desire to kill. Ghastly killing intent. There was killing intent in her eyes. All of them couldn't help but shudder. As for the primal royal crocodile, the viciousness and ferocity in its eyes had vanished. If it tried to be stubborn before Aria at a time like this, it would definitely suffer terribly. In the demon race, the weak could absolutely not challenge the strong, or they would die a miserable death. The weak should know their place. Aria gazed coldly at the crocodile. You haven't answered me. The crocodile's heart trembled from her gaze. It didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly nodded. Train? I'll train. I'll train well. Aria turned around and walked over to the ascension platform. All the others didn't dare to say a word. Aria glanced at them. Did you see? That middle-aged man who fought Big Brother Yang earlier. Let me ask all of you something. Can any one of you defeat that guy? In any case, I definitely can't. A 5-world realm expert. While Aria was extremely strong, she was still a little inferior when compared to a true 5-world realm expert. Of course, she could fight one, but her chances of winning were very, very slim. Even Yang Yi had only been able to kill the middle-aged man after his bloodline had been activated. Moreover, Yang Yi possessed numerous divine treasures. Aria continued, in the future, we'll definitely face more than one expert like that guy. We'll definitely face many of them. So, tell me, what will you do if you encounter someone like him? Run? Fight? Or perhaps you need Big Brother Yang and Big Sister and to deal with them all. Then what about you? All of you are just going to watch from in here. They fell silent. Aria spoke coldly. Big Brother Yang, Big Sister and Snowy allow us to stay here. But do you think it's something they should do for you? Do you think Snowy is supposed to give those fruits to you too? She gazed at the dragon, Oxy, and the tiger. Dragon, Oxy, and tiger, all three of you almost died for Snowy. You know how to be grateful, but you must realize that many, many people are targeting Snowy. Just like that human man from before. He was here for Snowy too. And more experts like him will come in the future, and they may even be stronger than him. If you don't become stronger, you'll end up being killed or failing to keep up with Big Brother Yang and Big Sister and then you'll be abandoned. All of them fell silent. Abandoned. It was something they absolutely couldn't accept. Yang Yi may not ask them to leave the primordial pagoda, but it would be just as Aria had said. They would really be useless and good for nothing. Aria gazed at the crocodile, mermaid, and Shilin. All of you who are new here should never forget that Big Brother Yang and Big Sister and don't need all of you. Your strength isn't bad. But can you even compare to the two of them? Don't ever take their kindness for granted and just enjoy it all like you deserve it. I'm talking about all of you. All of you should know your place. The mermaid fell silent for a short while and bowed slightly to Aria. You're right, senior. As far as the mermaid was concerned, Aria was a senior. Aria waved her hand. Just call me Aria. As she spoke, she sat down and continued. Let me ask all of you something. Is this place comfortable? Is it nice? They nodded. They had changed their fate in here. Aria continued. Bug, have you thought about whether you'll be able to stay here if Big Brother Yang and Big Sister and fall? They were stunned because they'd never given that any consideration. Aria said, you must understand that this isn't just Big Brother Yang, Big Sister and Snowy's home. It's our home too. She looked up at the sky and continued. Big Brother Yang was beaten up to such a terrible state and almost lost his life. Didn't that make all of you think of anything? I did. I wondered if I could still sit down and hear and eat without any worries if Big Brother Yang fell one day. Meanwhile, Oxy walked over to Arya and waved the primordial axe of creation to display that he wanted to train. The dragon spoke abruptly. Arya, I was unwilling to accept you and couldn't stand the sight of you in the past. I thought all you knew is how to bully us. But now I approve of you. Arya glanced at them and said, from today onward, we're going into hell training. We have the best spirit energy, fruits, and snowy in here. If we still can't advance and grow stronger with all of that, we're truly beyond trash. Come on, let's begin now. Outside the primordial pagoda, Sword Scroll spoke softly. I didn't expect that little girl to have been hiding so much, and Nanjing nodded slightly. She was quite surprised too. She was surprised that Arya had been able to say all of that. Besides being surprised, she felt gratified. Time trickled by, and the blood-red glow around Yang Yi gradually returned within his body, and his injuries vanished as well. He'd been healed. A short while later, Yang Yi opened his eyes, and Nanjing asked, how do you feel? Yang Yi stood up, stretched, and said, I'm fine now. He gazed at Nanjing and continued, I feel like I'm full of energy. It's the power of your bloodline. Meanwhile, Sword Scroll spoke abruptly. Your bloodline has been fully activated, and it's the purest form of the Mad Demon bloodline now. The Mad Demon bloodline contains an extremely powerful Mad Demon energy. Now you can use it at any time. Presently, once you activate your bloodline's energy, you're completely on par with a 5-world realm expert. So, I suggest that you stop suppressing your cultivation. Stop suppressing it? Yang Yi was puzzled. Why? Sword Scroll spoke softly. If you stop suppressing it, every rise in your cultivation will increase your strength in every aspect. For example, while you've activated your Mad Demon bloodline, you can't fully utilize its strength. Or like Executor, you can only use 50% of its strength right now. Your combat strength is seriously limited because of your cultivation. Yang Yi spoke solemnly. Should I advance now? She shook her head. No, that isn't necessary. You just have to stop suppressing it on purpose. Moreover, you've suppressed it for too long, so if you allow it to explode forth right now, your body will be absolutely incapable of enduring it. Not only your body, even your mind will not be able to endure it. So, you can't rush into it and you have to take it slow. The most important aspect is to possess a strong body, because only a strong enough body can endure greater strength. The body. Yang Yi glanced at his body and nodded. His body was too weak now, especially against 5-world realm experts. His body couldn't endure their strength at all. Sword Scroll smiled. Do you want to head to Eternal Kingdom? Yang Yi gazed at her, and she pointed at the universe wall. Break that wall and you can get there. Yang Yi shook his head. Not now. She asked. Why? A cold smile curled up on his face. They will definitely send more experts, so I'll just wait here to kill them. He gazed at Sword Scroll and continued. You want to go in there? She nodded. Yang Yi thought for a moment and said, Can we go a little later? She smiled. There's no rush. I was a little too anxious. It's not suitable for you to go over there right now. Otherwise, once they discover your presence, you'll really have entered a tiger's den. They have to take precautions against the desolate race and destiny here. But that universe is their territory, and they have nothing to worry about over there. The important matter at hand for you is to improve your body, and then improve your cultivation. Yang Yi nodded. He gazed to the side, and the middle-aged man's corpse was still floating there. Yang Yi waved his right hand and a ray of golden light appeared before him. It was the thin golden disc, a divine treasure. It had caused a great deal of trouble for him in the previous battle. Divine treasures were truly formidable in the hands of 5-world realm experts. Yang Yi put the divine treasure away and walked over to the universe wall. There were 2 corpses by the wall. Yang Yi glanced at them and was about to move his gaze away when Sword Scroll suddenly said, It's him! Yang Yi gazed at her. Who? She pointed at one of the corpses and spoke softly. the founding ancestor of Sword Sky City, the sword master who I once chose. Yang Yi gazed at the corpse. At this moment he thought of something. The current governor of Sword Sky City had entrusted him with a task, and it was to see if their founding ancestor was still alive in the Eternal River. He was dead. Yang Yi walked over to the corpses and spoke softly. They are already before the universe wall. So how did they die here? They failed to break through it. Sword Scroll spoke solemnly. Even a 5-world realm expert would find this wall difficult to break through. It can be said that this entrance Eternal Kingdom gave them doesn't really exist. But it does make sense because they never wanted to let others enter their exclusive kingdom anyway. Yang Yi spoke solemnly. Has no one ever succeeded throughout history? Sword Scroll shook her head slightly. Only 2 types of people can get through this wall. One of them is the people they choose. Once those people enter Eternal Kingdom, they will become one of them, and they will be treated as part of Eternal Kingdom. As for the other type of people, they are people like Xianxia and the Unfettered One. Their strength is at a level that allows them to enter by force. But how few people like that actually exist? She gazed at the corpses and continued. They arrived here. However, they realized that their hope had turned into despair. Suddenly, Yang Yi looked into the distance, and he saw a figure approaching rapidly. Yang Yi was stunned when he saw the person. It can't be. Oh, Snowy. Snowy. Get out here. Hurry. It's time to plunder. Oh no. Come outside to meet an old friend. Hurry.